ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
The sounds of nightlife are returning to San Diego. More and more restaurants are bringing back live entertainment for outdoor diners. Good evening, I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Our ABC 10 News reporter Anthony Pura spoke with a musician who has waited nearly a year to get back on stage.
Cafe Sevilla in San Diego's Gaslamp Quarter gave us this video from Saturday evening, their first weekend of having live music back.
So right now they're just setting up in the sidewalk, and they're just happy to perform. They don't need a big stage or anything.
Rudy Corona is the restaurant and club manager. Like all restaurants, they've adapted to the new rules during a pandemic. They've created an outdoor dining area, put in social distancing protocols. But he says live music has been such a huge part of the restaurant's identity, so they're thrilled to have it back, though with some guidelines.
We have the musicians apart and away from the audience. So that's the thing that changed this time. At this time, we cannot have any dancing. So, people are sitting down and they decide to dance a little bit in their chair.
Everyone was really happy to see live music again. They were just very, very excited.
John Tidwell is a musician. His band Malimania started playing at Cafe Sevilla again. They were a familiar name there until the pandemic essentially took them and other performers off the stage.
It's been really hard, and hard mentally as well, besides financially. And the last time I had a gig was March 20.
He says public health orders have forced other performers he knows to take their shows virtually, but Tidwell never really got into that. But when the state lifted the stay-at-home order last month and San Diego County returned to the purple tier, live entertainment got the green light, and he says work is finally starting to pick up. Tidwell says he's performing again Wednesday night, and he's got another gig lined up Valentine's Day weekend in San Marcos. He hopes the jobs keep coming.
We're just hoping for things to grow.
Anthony Pura, ABC 10 News.
We once again had fewer than 1,000 new COVID cases today, and our test positivity rate ticked down to 6%. Another 32 people lost their lives to COVID, bringing that number to more than 2,800. Some Oceanside students will be allowed to return to campus beginning next month. Tonight, the board voted to allow kindergarten through 5th grade students to resume in-person learning. Special education students can start March 8th. The rest of the elementary students can go back a week later, March 15th. Some parents protested today, saying that it was safe for all of the students to go back. The district tells us they're not allowed to bring secondary students back until San Diego is out of the purple tier. A district spokesperson sent us a statement. It reads in part, "We absolutely empathize with our entire community and know that this global pandemic has been challenging for everyone. One common ground that we all share is our deep desire to return our students to in-person instruction as quickly as practically following health and safety guidelines."
Everybody, including my wife, including myself, as a parent of 4 young kids, young athletes, want to know when our kids can safely get back to competitive sports, safely get back to competitive sports. We've been negotiating the details of that. Real progress is being made.
That was Governor Gavin Newsom today in Santa Clara. He has been under fire for not releasing guidance that would allow youth sports to resume. Newsom says he understands parents' concerns, but that sports does fall under the bigger umbrella of how to safely reopen schools in general. Currently, only sports that allow for social distancing are allowed. For now, Newsom says the state is working on plans to allow for more younger children to return to the class.
And the county will not be moving law enforcement officers higher on the priority list to get vaccinated. Today, County Supervisor Joel Anderson proposed moving law enforcement to a higher tier. He made the case that all first responders get into situations where there is a COVID risk, but the board voted against the proposal 3-2. Opponents have said they do not feel younger, healthier people should be moved up ahead of those at greater risk.
If you remember anything from your high school biology, then you're probably familiar with Darwin's theory of evolution and natural selection. It's an organism's ability to adapt to its environment and change in order to survive. That's exactly what the coronavirus is doing. The virus is mutating and in some cases getting stronger. So As humans, we're in a race with the virus, and the only way to keep up is through sequencing. San Diego's Illumina is the leader in that race.
We are at war with this virus.
I believe that we should be treating every case as if it's a variant.
By now, you've probably heard that new, stronger strains of COVID-19 have reached the United States. The UK variant is in over 30 states, with numerous cases in San Diego County. The South African variant was recently discovered on the East Coast, and now the Brazilian variant. But those are just the stronger, more contagious variants. There's probably more.
This virus mutates at a rate of about 1 to 2 bases per month.
Yes, as the virus grows around the globe and we have tens of millions of people who are infected, that virus mutates about twice a month. Sequencing the different strains, revealing the whole genome of the virus, is the only way to identify and fight them.
We've got to do good surveillance, namely do genomic sequencing surveillance so that we know when these mutations arise in our country.
It was Illumina's technology that sequenced what was then the unknown virus in Shanghai, China back in January of 2020. It took only 10 days from the time the first COVID case was reported to the World Health Organization to discover its genome, a remarkable feat. By comparison, it took almost 5 months to complete the same research on SARS in 2002.
And that's when, we were off to the races with respect to developing diagnostic tests so that we could understand who had infections and start working on vaccines.
But the problem is, as a nation, we have the technology, but we're not running the race fast enough. For example, the UK sequences about 10% of its cases, roughly 12,000 samples a week. But here in the United States, we only sequence 0.3% of positive cases, about 5,000 a week. You don't want to lose a race to a virus mutating into more contagious and, in some cases, deadlier strains. If we sequenced more, would we find more variants?
There could be many other variants. And importantly, not only do you have to detect the variant, but you have to do enough sequencing over time so that you can make the observation if any variant that you identify is starting to increase relative to others.
In other words, sequencing not only gives researchers the knowledge of how to fight these stronger strains, but also where to shift our resources to focus on areas that need increased testing and vaccinations. And as Dr. Febo adds, we have to learn from this pandemic because it won't be our last.
And certainly COVID-19 will motivate each country and us as a global community to increase our vigilance and increase our ability to detect earlier the next potential pandemic.
Part of President Biden's American Rescue Plan reserves $400 million for a coordinated plan to sequence and create a network to share research of COVID cases. Until then, Dr. Febo says it is important to note that as fewer people get infected with the virus, the less opportunity the virus has to mutate and grow stronger. So until we have more vaccines and eventually booster shots to fight those stronger strains, we have to do our part to wear masks and socially distance.
A Navy sailor was shot and killed in his front yard in Chula Vista on Saturday. Chula Vista police say paramedics tried to save 36-year-old Navy Chief Ramon Joseph, but they couldn't. Officers say there were reports of a suspicious vehicle and shots fired before he was killed. The Navy says he was from Louisiana and was stationed on the USS Stetham. Anyone with information about Joseph's death is asked to call Chula Vista Police. And tonight at 7 o'clock, we showed you a tribute that was written by Joseph's fellow sailors.
Former President Trump's second impeachment trial kicked off today, leading to a very long day as both sides presented their case. Ultimately, 6 Republicans sided with all Democrats, voting the trial should move forward. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo walks us through an historic first day.
Less than a month after he left office, House impeachment managers started former President Donald Trump's second impeachment trial, accusing Trump of inciting a deadly riot.
Fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
House impeachment managers showed 13 minutes of video footage of the riot at the Capitol last month. 100 senators serving as jurors, many forced to relive January 6th. Trump's defense team denounced the riot but argued the president is not responsible for what happened.
We can't possibly be suggesting that we punish people for political speech in this country.
Arguing the Senate can't try a president who's no longer in office. But local law professor Craig Barkis says there are past examples where this has happened before in other government positions.
The month of January could be a month where a president could engage in all sorts of conduct, knowing that he or she was going to be leaving on January 20th, and there would be no accountability whatsoever.
Barkis explains it's a legal proceeding as much as it is a political one. Also a question of whether or not Donald Trump could ever run for office again.
Many people think we need to speak to this. People need to be held accountable. We stand for the rule of law, and it's important that we see this through.
Opening arguments begin on Wednesday. Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
And we will have continued live coverage of the impeachment trial on our streaming apps. You can watch by downloading our free 10 News app on your phone or your streaming device.